Curious, interested, and pondering whether a carnivore or keto style diet is right for you? Perfect. Keep watching. Now, if you're new here, I'm Jackie Ulmer, and I share tips on lower toxic living, functional health, and optimizing life after age 50 and beyond. And today we're talking about how to start a carnivore keto diet step by step so that you set yourself up for success, you plan on success, as well as plan on those things that might derail you. And if you've been curious about this way of eating, whether for weight loss, for gut health, for inflammation, mental clarity, and brain fog, this video is absolutely for you. Make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below with your carnivore keto goals. So let's dive in. In this video series, I'm going to also be covering the carnivore versus keto difference. What is the difference? We hear those terms bannered around, and there are some definite differences. So we'll break down the similarities and the key differences so that you can navigate what's going to be the best fit for you. Now, if you've been around me for a while, you know that I am a body hacker, biohacker, and I'm all about bio-individuality because I realize that every body is different. Where we live, how we were raised, our lifestyle choices, all of that affects our body. And so the way that we experience different type diets is going to vary greatly depending on each individual. So my goal is to help you learn some terms, understand some things, and figure out for yourself what's going to work, because the way that I do things or anyone else does things isn't necessarily going to be the perfect fit for you. Only you truly know you. So we'll talk about the differences. We're going to talk about those top myths about the carnivore diet and keto. We'll address those common misconceptions. And there are many out there. And believe me, when I say I had them, I was a huge skeptic. We'll talk about the biggest mistakes that most beginners make and how to avoid those common pitfalls, what you can eat on a carnivore or keto diet. And we'll talk about the full food list, meal ideas, as well as individualizing that for you, your goals, and how your body responds and reacts to different things. I'm going to get into one particular video on the vegan diet and vegetables and how those can derail us potentially. Now, it may not be your situation, but I know that's me. I love my veggies, and the last thing in the world that I wanted to do was give them up. But I realized that I have some oxalate issues with certain veggies. Some of those veggies that are typically deemed healthy, such as kale. Kale doesn't work at all with my system. And once I learned that, I released my health goal of hanging on to kale as a healthy option for me. You'll have to figure that out for yourself. We'll talk about constipation and what your poop is like on carnivore and keto, because there's some myths and misconceptions around that too. It all has to do with gut health, digestion tips, electrolytes, and a lot of different things like that. Do you need supplements or electrolytes on the carnivore or keto diet? What's essential? What's unnecessary? How do electrolytes fit into all of that? And how can you best understand that going into it so that you can set yourself up for success? What happens in the first 30 days? What are the detox symptoms, the benefits, adaptations that you may want to work? We're going to cover all of that. The best cuts of meat for carnivore and keto, budget friendly, nutrient dense. There's a lot of different options, and I'm going to ease your mind if you're thinking this needs to be super expensive or you have to go with the highest quality of any of that. We'll cover that. How to meal prep for a carnivore keto diet. I'm going to really give you those easy, practical meal prep strategies, because I feel like when you're prepped and planned, you set yourself up for so much more success. And then, of course, how do we handle social situations and eating out? We'll talk about those tips for navigating social events. So again, subscribe and watch the entire playlist that I have here on the carnivore keto life. All right, step one, know your why and set your goals. This is such an important part of it. So often we want to dive into something before we really take the time to plan and prepare. So first and foremost, let's talk about why you want to do this. Are you looking to lose weight? That was not one of my goals. I did not need to lose weight, but a lot of people start this type of diet to lose weight. And if that's what you are shooting for, then we're going to talk about some of those type goals. Is it to heal your gut, reduce joint inflammation? That was definitely one of mine. Get rid of brain fog, figure out some digestive things. I had a lot of different reasons, along with just biohacking, body hacking, and seeing how my body would do with this. So goal setting is so important because it helps you understand your motivation. Because when you understand your goals, that helps you stay committed when cravings and those social situations kind of test our willpower, and it definitely happens. And again, if you're a body hacker like me, you might just be curious to see, how is my body going to respond to this? I'm hearing about it. Is it a fad? Is it this? Would it work for me? The only way you're truly going to know is to give it a try for yourself. We'll see how your body responds to eliminating certain foods and even plant-based foods and veggies. I wanted most specifically to optimize my functional health, my energy levels, and my metabolism. I've shared before, my goal is to be a centenarian, and so I am very focused on this phase of my life of really taking care of me and doing everything that I can to assure that I have a healthy outcome into my hundreds and living fully fit, functional, and not bedridden. Okay, I don't want to just live to be 100. I want to be fun and fit and fabulous and functional. Here's a little mindset tip. Write down your reason for doing carnivore keto and keep it somewhere visible. Maybe right on the refrigerator and or the pantry door. All right, step 2, planning and prepping for success. When we plan ahead for success, including those potential derailments, we are so much better equipped to navigate this in a positive way. This type of lifestyle, the carnivore lifestyle, is really about simplicity, and prepping ahead of time is key to keeping it simple and disciplined. Now, if you haven't watched my video, I should say, on discipline, I'll leave it in the show notes, but I talk about how really and truly for me, discipline is freedom. And when I plan and prep ahead of time, it takes a small amount of time to do that, get everything ready. That frees me up for so many different things, including not having decision fatigue. When I plan ahead, I know what I'm going to eat. My pantry and refrigerator are fully stocked, and I'm going to set myself up for success. That's my goal for you. So we're going to start by stocking our kitchen with quality meats, ideally pasture-raised, eggs, butter, animal fats. Cheese is allowed if you're open to it. Again, you do you. I know for me, I do better with goat and sheep cheese. I love sheep feta cheese. I love goat cheese. I love all of that. But regular cow's dairy cheese is fine too, if that works for you. I just tend to find that my body seems to respond a little bit better with the other two options. But the only way you're going to know for yourself is to try. Test and try your own body. And when you do this, use my mindfulness eating hack of 20 minutes after I eat, I weigh in on my body. Is my stomach rumbling? How does my brain feel? Do I feel tired, sluggish, fatigued? Do I feel energized? Do I feel anything in my joints? How do I feel? And then I set my timer for 2 hours later, and then I weigh in again. And then the next morning I wake up and I think, how did I sleep? How do I feel today? Do I spring out of bed? Do I have any joint issues, any inflammation, or any of that? That's the best way to hack yourself, because your body is constantly giving you cues. The problem is we tend to ignore those cues. We eat in a social setting where we're talking and we're not really mindfully paying attention to taking slow, intentional bites, setting the fork down, chewing our food completely, all of those different things that our moms may have taught us about that we've let go by the wayside. There really is good reasoning to do all of that. All right, another prep step: buy high quality salt and electrolytes. This is an important part of it. I like to use Redmond's real salt. Okay, you can order these off Amazon. I'll leave some links below, but it's really important to hydrate your body with good electrolytes. I like to use magnesium, potassium. You can actually buy liquid electrolytes. You can use the LMNT. I'm not the biggest fan of these. I don't like packaging, for one thing. And I also, these have stevia. They have some different sweeteners in them that don't always agree with everybody. But again, you do you. I much prefer the Relight, which is a Redmond product, just like the salt, the Relight. And again, I will leave the links below so that you can explore these for yourself. But it's super important to help you avoid some of those sluggish feelings, some digestive issues, and things that you may have heard of called the keto flu or the carnivore flu, or different things that our body can experience when we cut out carbs and don't add in some of the electrolytes and supplements and things to set our body up for more success. We're also going to plan for easy to cook meals like ground beef, as simple as that, ribeye, salmon. I particularly love ground lamb, ground bison, regular lamb, all of that. So I will pre-cook a lot of these meats, and I'll talk about that here in a minute about cooking in bulk, but I always have eggs on hand, cheese, I always have plenty of meats, and then of course my mini quiches, which I typically use as breakfast, but you can eat these anytime. They travel extremely well. And I have a video linked right here on my go-to mini quiche. It's something that is on the playlist, but it's also something that I cook every single week. I freeze them. I have them in the refrigerator, so I'm never caught short. Which leads me to the next step, which is cooking in bulk. Again, this is so that you always have food ready. I usually plan and cook my meats twice a week. So Sundays are my planning days. Sundays, I do all of my planning for the week. Everything from, I get out my calendar, I plan my social events, I plan my work productivity, videos that I'm going to shoot, social events, and I do a lot of meal planning then. So I look ahead and I decide what's on the calendar. I'm on my local school board, so sometimes I have school board meetings, so I need to be prepared that night, to eat ahead of time and to have all those things prepared. I always make my mini quiche at least once a week so that I'm prepared. I freeze those again, so I'm never caught short. And if you're worried about getting bored, this is one of the things that I hear a lot. When you first get started with carnivore, it can be fun, exciting, different. But then over time, especially if you're a foodie like me, it can get boring. So we're going to keep it interesting with different cuts of meat and experiments with cooking, like air frying, slow cooking in a crock pot, grilling, just different things that you can do. And I am not a total purist, which is why I like to call it Carnivore Keto. I'll talk a little bit about some of the extras that I add into my diet. And then let's talk about pre-planning for common disasters. And that is when we mess up and we feel like we've derailed ourselves. One day, we go out for a social event, and the next thing you know, we're eating, the whole bag of sweet potato fries and a quesadilla, cooked in a tortilla or something like that. Okay, it's going to happen. Just relax. Just reset and restart the next meal or the next day. Don't be tempted to throw in the towel, beat yourself up and think, oh, I'm a total loser. I can't do this. I'm never going to be successful. Life is full of tests and derailments, okay? Getting an F on a test is really not a bad thing, especially if you go back and look at the test and say, how did I mess up here? What can I learn from this? And how can I get the answer right the next time? Same thing with this. How did I get messed up here? I wasn't intentional. I let myself get carried away. I let myself get caught up with the crowd and, what everybody else was doing. Okay, how can I learn from this? How can I next time be more prepared, be more mindful? And what am I going to do with my next meal or the next day to set myself up for success? Doesn't that just feel better than going, oh my gosh, you're such a loser. You can't do anything right. Instead, go, wow, isn't that interesting that I allowed myself to get derailed? What can I learn from this? And here's what I'm going to eat in the very next meal. So this is where it's important to be very real about what your current level of eating ultra-processed foods, eating out, eating sugars, consuming alcohol, all of that. When you can get really honest ahead of time with that, and you can look and see, what does my typical week consist of? How often do I eat out? How often do I eat ultra-processed foods? How often do I consume alcohol? And how can I begin to reset some of those things on my calendar and in my mind so that I can not go down that path in the future as best that I can? All right, step number 3, you have some choices. You can ease into this lifestyle slowly, or you can go all in. And the choice is really up to you. And again, knowing what your goals are, and being very honest with yourself about the way you currently consume foods. So, the ease in slowly is the method that I typically recommend for most people, and it's certainly what I did. Even though when I started this, I was coming from a very clean place of eating, almost zero ultra processed foods, almost zero seed oils, very, very little alcohol, very little sugar, all of that. So I was already a very clean eater. I was already taking my electrolytes and doing all of that. But I still wanted to ease in kind of slowly. If you're coming from the traditional standard American diet, just start by removing as many processed foods, sugars, and grains as you can while increasing your meat and healthy fat intake. Okay, start with those kind of things. And again, this is where being super honest with yourself about what you've been consuming is going to truly matter, because your body may completely revolt if you go cold turkey and cut out all vegetables, all carbs, all of your traditional way of eating. For me, I love avocados, pickles, and olives. Not so much pickles, but avocados and olives have healthy fats in them. And yes, they are on the carbohydrate side of things too, but they're a slow carb along with pickles. And they're one of those things that help me break up the boredom. I can mix ground bison with some chopped up pickles and put a little avocado, and I almost feel like I'm having a bison burger. I can sprinkle a little bit of feta cheese in with it, and it is fantastic. Occasionally, I'll throw in a little bit of arugula or something like that, just a small amount to kind of break things up and prevent the boredom. A very small amount. I've learned to use my veggies more as condiments. I love to use herbs like basil, oregano, rosemary, different things from my garden that, again, work as a condiment, season the foods extremely well. And again, I pay attention what cues are my body giving me after I eat these specific foods. Now, I'm going to be honest, I am a potato lover. So once or twice a week, I will have a small amount of my smushed potatoes. I cook them ahead of time. I refrigerate them, which drastically reduces the glycemic load. I've got some information here on videos on that, but I will cook them, often refrigerate them overnight, and then I have them in the refrigerator to eat. And I will eat maybe a half a cup. Not a lot, but just enough to satiate myself, to satisfy that little bit of a craving. And again, I'm not in this to lose weight. I don't have any major issues. But after I eat this, then I can weigh in again and just see how is my body reacting to this. And then I can make decisions for the long haul if I'm going to continue with this. Now, I also tend to combine intermittent fasting. This may not be how or where you want to start it all, but I do have a playlist on intermittent fasting, so find it here. I talk about how I started, what I do, and some things and some ways that you can incorporate this into your lifestyle. What I'm learning is that a very stringent, consistent routine is not always the best solution. It's disciplined and it can be easier to follow, but in some ways, I feel like mixing things up and constantly confusing my body a little bit or keeping it, sharp and aware of not totally always knowing what's incoming can really help me adapt to different things in a better way. But again, you have to do you and test and try. One of the first things that you want to do is cut out snacks. I mentioned that already, but cut out snacking and then ease into your carnivore keto meal plan. Cut out snacks and then focus on 3 solid meals a day. Now, if you don't want to drastically reduce your carb intake to begin with, maybe start your breakfast with some yogurt and blueberries. And then eat the other 2 meals more meat-based. Ideally, if you're going to continue eating some carbs, and I do mean slow carbs, eat them earlier in the day. Your body tends to deal with that better. You need the energy level that carbs can provide for you earlier in the day, and then the meats and healthier fats satiate you and prepare you for better sleep cycles and a lot of things like that. The other thing that you can do is just go all in. Some people prefer to jump right into a strict carnivore keto approach and let their body adjust quickly. The first few weeks can feel a little challenging when you do this as your body adapts. This is normal. Stay consistent and give yourself time to adjust. And we'll talk about some of those things that you might experience, because it's important for you to note that if you do jump right in, or even if you ease in slowly, you may experience some sluggishness to begin with. You may experience the keto flu and some of the different things that people go through when they begin to cut back the body's dependency on carbs and finding those fuel sources in the way that it typically has. All right, now let's talk specifically about electrolytes and those type supplements and listening to your body. Now, I've already mentioned the importance of this, but one of the biggest mistakes people make is not managing their electrolytes properly. When you cut out carbs, your body flushes more water and salt. Okay, think about this. Carbohydrate, that means that it retains water. So when we have that intake of carbohydrates, we're retaining water. When we eliminate those carbohydrates, it tends to flush the water and a lot of the salt out of our system. This is what leads to those keto flu type symptoms: headaches, fatigue, dizziness, just kind of generally feeling sluggish. If you experience that, one of the first things that you want to do is get some electrolytes into your body. Even just salt and magnesium and potassium can be great. If you want to, do that, maybe a squeeze of lemon along with that to kind of reduce the saltiness of the water. But there's a lot of different things, and I will leave in the show notes, I will leave my guide to electrolytes and some of that so that you can look at some of those recipes, homemade recipes, the links to order these from Amazon or wherever you want to find them. But it's super important to manage those electrolytes. You may also experience some digestive issues, constipation or diarrhea. Either one of those can strike. And again, what I want you to know is this is perfectly normal. It doesn't mean that you should quit everything. This is just your body adapting. Now, of course, like anything, over time, you want to pay attention to this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm a health coach and an integrative nutritional coach, and I'm a personal body and biohacker. You can go to citations.lowertoxiclife.com to learn more about the studies and the research that I have done. And so please note that I am not instructing you on anything that you should do. I'm mostly just sharing my own personal experiences and other experiences of my coaching clients and people who I've worked with to begin to use this type of lifestyle. So to avoid the keto flu and some of these things, first thing, increase your intake of salt. I've already mentioned Redmond's real salt is great. Any type of Himalayan salt, magnesium and potassium, hydration, plenty of water, plenty of bone broth, any mineral-rich drinks. I love to drink coconut water. I will typically do 4 ounces. It is more of a carbohydrate. It's not an animal-based product, but for me, it works extremely well. I try to stick to only 4 ounces. I'm not getting a lot of carbs. I'm not getting a lot of that, but there are great electrolytes and other good ingredients in coconut water. Again, you'll have to figure that out for yourself. All right, so that's electrolytes. And then step 5, your mindset work. This is so important. And as I started with goals, mindset work is an important part of it because, as I mentioned, chances are you're going to get bored with this type of eating and you're going to have temptations. The mindset work that you do is going to help you. I did a video, and I'll link it in the show notes, on food, women, and social situations, where everything that we do in the world today, especially here in America, everything is based around food and alcohol. And when you think about it, it's true. Our holidays, our celebrations, rewards, kids at school, they get a piece of candy. I mean, different things like that. Halloween. I mean, you think about so many things that all revolve around something that we put in our mouth. And quite often, it's not healthy. So what I've learned to do, even though I'm a total foodie, I love to cook, I love to socialize, I love to entertain, I'm learning to adapt the food choices and how I integrate the food part of it into the overall plan of the social setting, the community, and all of that. And, to be real, I mean, eating mostly meat can feel repetitive. It can feel boring. That's where I like to use things like bacon. And one of the things I mentioned pickles and avocados and olives, but I also love mushrooms. So I will do sauteed mushrooms to put over my meats, and just little things that taste great. Again, I use them in a very condiment style situation, but they help cut the boredom. And again, for me, I've already hacked my body. I know what I'm looking to accomplish, and you'll have to figure out for yourself if some of these condiment style carbohydrates, if you will, work for you. Those type things fit more into the keto type diet. But again, I'm really combining the two for the best overall fit for myself. An important thing that we have to do is begin to shift our focus from what we're missing out on to how amazing we feel, how amazing we're setting our bodies up to perform for us and to live functionally and longevity and all of that kind of stuff. So we have to begin to shift our focus from deprivation to our goals and what we're looking to accomplish. Not always easy, but so very important to keep it real and keep yourself on the success track. Remind yourself that cravings are going to come, temptations are going to come, social environments are going to show up. They're temporary, and results are long lasting. So I always ask myself, is the 30 seconds on the tongue worth the feeling that I'm going to have in 30 minutes of regret, remorse, inflammation, food coma, whatever it is? I always ask myself, is that 20 seconds, 30 seconds, even a minute really, truly worth it? What if I just forego that and remind myself that I am setting myself up for success? And then finding community, just like being here. There are lots of communities where you can surround yourself with people who may not choose to join you on this journey, but who will be supportive. They won't try to derail you. They won't try to, cajole you and convince you just to have, one champagne, or just to have this little amount of French fries or whatever it is. Surround yourself with those people who support your journey and are championing you to success. And then experiment with new recipes. Try different textures, spices, cooking styles, all of these things. And then most importantly, celebrate the wins. Start every morning by planning ahead. What is my food plan for today? And end every day looking back and saying, wow, this is what I did today. This is how I stuck to my goals and accomplished what I wanted. And I am going to celebrate that win. Pay attention to your energy level, your digestion, your inflammation. Watch how those begin to improve over time, along with any weight loss goals that you may have. So depending on those goals, depending on how your body's responding, you can allow yourself to have a cheat meal or cheat event here and there with social events and holidays and all of that. Again, I'm not here to give you permission or take any of that away from you. You can figure all that out for yourself. And then finally, step 6, navigating those social situations and eating out. We've talked about that a little bit, but one of the biggest concerns that people have is, how am I going to stay fun? How am I going to be social? How am I going to fit into social situations? Here's what works for me. I very often eat before I go out so that I'm not tempted by off-plan foods. I can order just a salmon, just a salmon fillet and, cooked in butter. I've done that lots of times. I can order something like that, or maybe with a side of avocado. So I eat ahead of time so that my body is full and satiated, and I'm not as likely to be tempted by those foods that will derail me. And then just kind of like ordering small things, I order simple meals, a grilled salmon, maybe a steak if that's what you like, a burger with no bun, a side of eggs, something like that. And then if you're in a situation where you can bring your own snacks, your own food, do. Beef jerky can be great. Those mini quiches, hard-boiled eggs, cheeses. Again, know what those snacks are that work for you. Cottage cheese. There's a lot of different options that fit into the overall meal plan that you'll find that as you plan ahead and prepare, you can tuck into a little cooler bag or your purse or something like that. And then the other thing with social situations is, don't feel the need to have to over-explain your choices. You can simply state, I feel best eating this way, or I'm testing out something new and different, and it's working really well for me. I'm testing some things out to manage some health concerns that I've had. It's kind of like anything. You set your own boundaries, right? You only have to explain what you truly want to explain. And if people keep pushing, you can always say, I don't really feel comfortable discussing this any further. Okay. And I mentioned step 6 was final, but really step 7 is, and that is to track your progress and adjust everything as you need to. Track. How am I feeling? If you've got weight goals, I recommend only weighing once a week. Ideally, if you can, kind of discipline yourself to that. Track how you feel. Track what your weight goals are. Track what your measurements are. Track how you feel in your favorite clothes. Maybe you have that pair of shorts that you're looking to fit into for summer, or the bikini body, or whatever it is for you. Begin to track those different things and celebrate the successes as you're experiencing them. How do you feel? How do you look? What are your energy levels? How's your digestion? Any joint and inflammation? What are the improvements that you're experiencing? Do you feel mentally clearer? That's a big thing for me. I love that. And then again, like anything, if something feels off, tweak your approach. Maybe you need a little more fat. Maybe you need fewer dairy products. Maybe you need extra electrolytes. Just pay attention, get quiet, get mindful, and just ask your body, what are you telling me that you need? Now, if it screams Krispy Kreme donut, I'm going to tell you, don't answer that call. But chances are, the longer you live this lifestyle, you will find that those cravings become less for you, and the less enticing that food is. And over time, for me, what I found is I can actually taste the chemicals in cheesecake and so many of those foods that I used to absolutely love. Now, I still have a little tiny piece of dark chocolate on a regular basis, 85% cacao, dark chocolate. I absolutely love that. It's enough to satisfy those cravings, keep me on my goals, and keep me from feeling totally derailed. So that's it, health warriors, a step-by-step guide to starting carnivore, starting keto without feeling overwhelmed. I'd love to hear from you. What are your carnivore keto goals? Drop them in the comments below. If you found this helpful, like and subscribe so that you can get more on lower toxic living, health-focused content. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next in this video series as we cover all those different things that I mentioned, from the myths to, your poop, what's it supposed to be like, all of those type things. I'm Jackie Ulmer. Grab my guide over at lowertoxiclife.com, and thanks for being here.